erase some stuff. All right, now it wants to work the first time. Excellent. All right, so just came off of a great episode of Confidential. Most definitely go on YouTube and check that out and check us out every Wednesday. I'm Denzel Snipes. This is Sean Russey, the sports agent himself, and this is Sports Business Insider. And notice I hit the punches because this episode we're talking about boxing. You've heard us break down football, you've heard us break down basketball, baseball, even WWE. But now, and UFC's coming soon too. But now we're going to talk a little boxing tonight. First, let me do a little promo, talk my ish real quick. So check us out on Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Hit the like and subscribe button. Hit the follow button. Whatever it is you got to do, just check in with us every single week. We got a lot of great material, to put out there. Tell a friend, tell a cousin, tell their mother type of deal. You know what I mean? Y'all know what to do. Get it out there. Get us out there. Sideline Sports. The Sideline Sports Show, which is every Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Sideline Sports Network. We had a great show yesterday. That is with host JB Ellis and also commentators John Shear, Dave DeRocher, and Rafael Esparza, the greatest sports odds maker you will ever know. And Top Rope Talk on Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's with myself, occasionally with the wrestling professor Billy Cruz himself. This is all pro wrestling all the time. We got WWE, Indie, AEW, you name it. It's all pro wrestling all the time. We have recap episodes of pay-per-views and PLEs. Same with preview episodes. We talk about storylines, everything in the pro wrestling world, you name it. And we are live every Monday at around 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hawk Talk with Dave DeRocher and the Legion of Boom's own Walt Thurman III, Tuesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern on Sideline Sports Network. All Seattle Seahawks all the time. So if you they have a really great thing going on. It's been going on for about a year now. They have fans who come in, so a part of the 12s. They also have retired Seahawks that come in. A recent episode had Seahawks kicker Norm Johnson was on the episode. Also, Steve Largent has been on the episode as well. I met Steve Largent at Super Bowl week in Vegas. He's a pretty cool dude. Had his gold jacket on and everything. And so if you're a Seahawks fan, or if you're a 49ers or a Rams fan and somebody wants to come on there and talk a little banter, talk a little trash, it's all good. Just go see the fellas over there at Hawk Talk. That is on Tuesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, the Gauntlet. Gauntlet has returned to your Friday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern on Sideline Sports Network. Also on James Tatum 12 on YouTube as well. It is NFL centric. That is with myself, James Tatum, JJ. Dom DeRubis, and also Tyler Ingram as well. We get on there. We talk a little cash money-ish about the NFL. And we got a great non-sports topic every single week as well. So tune into the Gauntlet. James Tatum 12 on YouTube. And also Denzel Snipes 13 on YouTube as well. So let's get on to it. So we're talking a little boxing tonight. Ain't that right, Sean?
Yep.
All right. Also, how you doing tonight, man?
No, everything's going good, boss. We're going to go over some of the boxing tonight, do some comparisons between this era and last era and kind of take it from there.
Absolutely. So the first thing we want to touch on is the top grossing boxers. This is as of 2024. We got quite the list. Tyson Fury is on the list. Jake Paul is also on the list, as well as Tank Davis, Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence. If you want to touch a bit on that, Sean, if you will.
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing is, the top of the list, Anthony Joshua, 27-3, so 30 matches or 30 bouts, 250 million. Comparison to a super middleweight who's Canelo Alvarez, who's fought 65 times at 200 million. So you can see the money difference just from being a heavyweight compared to a super middleweight.
Right.
It's pretty drastic, figuring it only took him half the fights to surpass what Alvarez has done in 65 fights. And like you mentioned, Tyson Fury, he's only got 36 matches, 150 million. Jake Paul, 10 matches, 80 million. He is a cruiserweight, so again, you can see the difference there. But he does get a little bit of a boost because he's obviously got a little bit of a different following than the typical boxer.
Okay.
And he's got that match with Tyson. It'll be interesting to see what they each pull in on that one. Speaking of matches grossing, we'll go on some of these top grossing matches here. Oscar De La Hoya and Floyd Mayweather in 2007 got 130 million. In comparison, Mayweather and McGregor in 2017 made 275 million.
Wow.
and that was just Mayweather's purse for that fight, which put Mayweather over $1 billion in total earnings.
Yep.
Pacquiao and Mayweather in 2015, Pacquiao walked away with 150 million. Mayweather in that same fight walked away with 250 million, and I believe Pacquiao won that first fight. So you could see even the difference just from. I think Mayweather was holding the belt going into that fight, and the champion is always paid a little bit more.
Yes. All right.
And then in retrospect, so like we talked about the past era and some of the greats, Mike Tyson over his total earnings was only 300 million, and Tyson was around obviously much earlier than any of these other guys. Even though Tyson has the fight with Jake Paul, which will boost that number a little bit, he probably won't ever be the top grossing boxer when all is said and done.
Yeah.
Evander Holyfield 230 million, and then I think a little shocking of a number, George Foreman only at 30 million. I don't think people realize he didn't have that many bouts.
He didn't. But also on the list, and the general person will look on here and see that Ali's total earnings was 7.9 million. Keep in mind, 7.9, and that's the course over the course of his career. But keep in mind, he fought, like 60s, 70s, and 80s. So how much back then, if he got paid like 100,000 for a fight or something like that, what would that be today? So,
Yep. And
yeah.
he was the
So
first fighter to get gross $1 million for a single fight.
yes, yes, he was absolutely. So just to keep in mind, in retrospect, that Ali fought in the early era when the cost of living wasn't that bad, and keep in mind that 100,000 back then is worth like a whole lot more today. So get into some of these boxing contracts, you know what I mean? Because we looked and saw what the top grossing matches of all time would rake in. Mayweather and McGregor really stands out to me, in my humble opinion, because it also gave you said now that match did put Mayweather over 1 billion net worth, but also it was Conor McGregor's biggest payday ever. I think he got like $80 million. That's the most he'd ever earned off a fight, UFC or otherwise.
Yeah, yeah, and that's really off Mayweather's draw, and then obviously he has his own draw as well. But Mayweather's numbers are so high when he steps in the ring. Obviously, those days are past. But when he stepped in the ring, his numbers were so high, his demand was so high. It automatically elevated the boxer across the ring from him in terms of profit for that match.
It did absolutely, and at first, Dana White was not in favor of the match, but then he later changed his mind and said, and it's crazy because it was so foretelling. He said, "I'm not going to rob Conor McGregor out of his potentially his biggest payday," and he was right. It was his biggest payday because he knew
Yeah,
he was fighting. Had it been anybody else, Dana White probably wouldn't approve of it. But because it was Mayweather, he was like, "Wait a second, win or lose, Conor McGregor could really cash out on this fight."
yeah, and the attention it brought to UFC at the time as well.
Yes, it did. Absolutely. So he saw that. So definitely good on Dana White for signing off on him getting to this match. But no, let's get into some of these boxing contracts and a breakdown of it. From personal service to where the fighter's money could come from to the cost to the fighter. Go ahead.
Yeah, so these personal service contracts are the contracts between the boxer and the manager. Most famously Mike Tyson and Don King. Obviously, they all have managers now, but for those watching today, that's one of the most famous pairings. The manager usually takes 15 to 20%, um, and then we'll go through the breakdown real quick before we go where the fighters come from. Money actually comes from. The other breakdown costs they have. They also have to pay the promoter of the fight 20 to 25%. So already we're up to 40% of their purse is gone. Um, the boxing trainer gets 10 to 20%, so you're looking at half, and then the cut man gets about 2%, and then they have some other typical expenses, cardio, strength training, et cetera, et cetera. So you're looking at while these numbers are huge, they only actually walk away with maybe 50% unless they've foregone gone the manager and have represented themselves in negotiations, which is you know not untypical in boxing, but with the bigger guys, they usually do at least have a promoter in place if they don't have both promoter and manager in place. But so that that huge purse number gets split around pretty heftily.
Yeah, yeah, it does. Absolutely. I mean, because everyone's got to get theirs. Now, when you're a Floyd Mayweather, that may be, small chips. So of
Right,
course that
right.
that's all depending on the net worth of the boxer, how much they typically earn, in general on average. So I mean, there's a lot of variables that come into play because at the end of the day, they do have to get theirs. But
Yep.
but also the boxer's not exactly starving,
Exactly, because I mean the boxers have four sources that they're pulling income from for a single fight. They get their purse, which is negotiated usually between the promoter and the venue, and obviously the fighter, okays his promoter to sign the deal. Then he's got the pay-per-view share, which is based on the amount of buys. So the percentage that you get goes up as the amount of buys go up. Obviously, there's thresholds like 100,000, 200,000, a million buys. But as those buys go up, their percentage goes up. There's advertisement revenue that they get a share of, and they get a share of the ticket sales, which is also pre-negotiated between the promoter and the venue. So
Oh
they've
wow.
got four streams coming in, which is really how they get to these large numbers. And then, like you said, so they're not really hurt at the end of the day. When you get 250, even if you pay out 125, you're still walking away 125. And if you put it in Floyd's numbers, he's still got 500 million, even if you put in 500 million in fees. And obviously, with marketing and stuff, he's still probably got more than 500 million in the bank. But the fees are pretty astronomical compared to what other sports charge, in terms of being a representative, when it's usually somewhere between 3 to 10%, even if you're in the international waters. So this is definitely one of the higher sports in terms of taking money out of the athlete's pocket.
Yeah, and I want one source down there is the sanctioning body actually gets a percentage also. This could be anyone from the Nevada Athletic Commission to the World Boxing Council.
Yep. And if there's a lot of belts up for grabs, those numbers will go up. They
Yeah,
can actually demand certain belts be up for grabs at the event. They have some control over the event as well.
they do. So if the match is for the IBF title, the IBF will get a cut.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's a lot of hands in the boxing pot. It's amazing to see how many hands get paid out at the end of the day, even from just a pay per view that maybe says has six bouts on it.
Okay. All right. And last but not least, we're gonna touch on the purse bids. If you want to expand on that, as far as how the promoters win rights to host the fights and so forth, go ahead.
Yeah, so the winning promoter, the promoters will obviously place bids, but the winning promoter has to produce a depositor and a down payment that they've agreed upon right away before any matches are even allowed to be scheduled. So if the winning promoter can't come up with this, obviously they go to the second highest bid and they go to that promoter. But then they get it, and then it is also up to them though to set the venue, set the splits for the fighters, make sure expenses are covered like travel, meals, and other things for the fighters. All this is left up to the promoter that has the winning bid.
Mhm.
um, Belt holders, as we mentioned, are always entitled to a larger split of the purse. The promoters have to make sure the venue is giving the belt holder a larger split of the purse. um, and even if they lose the belt on the card, they still get the larger split on the purse.
Interesting. Okay, then. So if they lose, they still get a cut because the match was for that sanctioning body's title.
And the theory is obviously, like we talked about when Mayweather had the belt, he's the main draw on top of the belt being up for grabs as a draw. So they kind of get that extra little nudge for being champion.
Oh yeah, no,
And I think you
absolutely.
can see the number differences, like when we talked about the matches. Mayweather got 275, McGregor got 100, and then Mayweather De La Hoya. Mayweather got 80. That was when he was first starting out, and De La Hoya, who was champion at the time, got 130. So you
Mm,
could see the differences for being champion.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. The champion, you know, gets paid more, and that's understandable. They have the belt.
No, and then obviously, like I said, obviously the high number at 50%, but like a guy like Mayweather, obviously easily offsets that with his marketing deals. Tyson Fury as well. I mean, Tyson Fury is one of the obviously most well known boxers, and he's a worldwide brand at this point.
Mhm.
And these guys are obviously making up some of that loss, outside of the boxing ring.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, man, we've come to the end of the episode. I hope everybody out there was freshly educated on pretty much how boxers and others make their money. But there's going to be more boxing topics to come later on in the year. But thank everybody for watching Sports Business Insider. So for Sean Rossi, I'm Denzel Snipes, and we will see you all next week.